All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on something that pretty much shapes your daily life, but you might not even think about it, and that's the financial health of your city. We're going to show you how to read its financial report card so you can see for yourself just how healthy, or maybe not so healthy, your city's wallet really is.
So think about it. You see these huge projects happening all around you, right? A brand new metro line, a state-of-the-art hospital, a massive bridge connecting two parts of the city. These things cost a fortune. So, where does all that money actually come from?
Well, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. Just like you might take out a loan for a car or a house, when a city needs to fund something huge, it borrows money.
And the way they do this is by issuing something called a municipal bond. You, me, or a big investment fund, we can buy these bonds. And when we do, we're basically lending the city our money. In return, the city promises to pay us back, with interest, over a set period of time. It's really the main tool they have for building all this stuff.
Okay, but that brings up the million-dollar question, or maybe the billion-dollar question. Before you lend a city your hard-earned cash, you gotta know, is it a good bet? Can you trust that they'll actually pay you back? How do you even begin to measure that?
Well, lenders rely on what you could call a financial checkup. It's done by special agencies, and the end result is a credit rating. It's basically a grade, a report card, that tells everyone how risky it is to lend money to that specific city.
So let's dig into how this financial checkup actually works. We're going to start at the local level, with our cities and towns, what the finance folks often call urban local bodies, or ULBs.
So what exactly are they looking for in this checkup? It really boils down to three core areas. First, the city's legal and economic foundation. Second, its day-to-day operations. And third, what's actually inside its wallet.
First up, the foundation. You know, before you even look at a single spreadsheet, you have to understand the basic rules of the game that the city has to play by.
A city's financial strength really starts right here. Analysts are looking for a few key things. Does the local economy have a lot of different industries, or is it a one-trick pony? And this is crucial. Does the city have the legal power to set its own taxes? Can it control its own destiny? Having clear rules about borrowing and getting predictable money from the state, those are also huge green flags.
Okay, on to the second pillar, operations. This is all about looking at how well the city is actually being managed day in and day out.
You can think of this part like checking the city's vital signs. Are they focused on the basics, like clean water? And how good are they at it? A huge factor here is something called collection efficiency. It's one thing to say people owe taxes, but can the city actually collect that money? They also look for a reform mindset. Is the city's leadership actively trying to make things better, or are they just coasting?
And finally, we get to the third and, you could argue, most important pillar. It's time to open up the wallet and look at the cold, hard numbers.
And what we see here is a really core principle of financial health, self-reliance. Lenders want to see a city that's generating most of its own cash through its own taxes and fees. Why? Because that income is way more stable and predictable. Relying on grants from the state government can be risky, because those can get cut or changed from year to year.
Now, I know financial reports have a ton of jargon, but it all just comes down to a few simple questions. First, after you pay all the daily bills, is there any money left over? That's your surplus. Second, is that surplus big enough to comfortably make the interest payments on your loans? And third, what about paying back the loan itself, not just the interest? And finally, is there a rainy day fund, some cash set aside for emergencies?
So that's a city. Now, what happens when we zoom out and look at rating an entire state? The basic checkup is similar, but the whole perspective gets way, way bigger.
Yeah, the focus shifts completely. A city gets judged on how efficiently it delivers services like water or sanitation. A state, on the other hand, is judged as the manager of a massive, complex economy. The analysis is all about big-picture policy, how attractive it is for new investments, and the health of its entire economy, its gross state domestic product.
As one of these rating reports puts it, states are always in a balancing act. They have to build things like roads and ports to get the economy growing today, while also funding things like schools and hospitals for the people of tomorrow. It's a tough tightrope to walk.
When you're talking about state finances, you'll hear the term fiscal deficit thrown around all the time. It sounds really complicated, but all it means is the gap between what a government spends and what it earns in a year. It's basically the total amount of new money it had to borrow that year. But here's the kicker. Not all deficits are created equal. You have to ask, what is the state borrowing money for? If they're borrowing to build an asset, like a new power plant that will generate money for decades, that's good debt. It's an investment. But borrowing just to cover day-to-day expenses, that's a huge red flag.
It's like taking out a loan to pay your grocery bill every month.
So we've walked through the whole checkup process. But why should you, as a resident, as a taxpayer, actually care about some grade on a financial report? What does it have to do with you? It really comes down to this one simple, powerful fact. A higher credit rating means the city is seen as a safer bet. And just like with your own personal credit score, if you're a safe bet, you get a much, much better deal on loans.
And this isn't just some abstract number. This directly affects your life. A good rating means your city pays less in interest on its debt, and that frees up millions of dollars, taxpayer money that can now be spent on better parks, better schools, better roads. It's also a giant flashing sign that says, hey, this place is well run, which attracts businesses and jobs.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Now that you know what goes into this financial checkup, from the foundation and the operations to the quality of its debt, how do you think your own city or state would score? Understanding how their wallet works is really the first step to making sure our communities have a better future.